Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the shocking story of Ronda Rousey was the combat sports face. She wasn't simply winning, she was changing the definition of potential UFC champion and Olympic medalist Hollywood actress as the main character in a wrestling match. Others didn't break down doors as Ronda did. Despite being locked, yet behind the headlines, speed and strength were something much more delicate, and at 38 her narrative isn't one of success. Rather, it's one of remorse for distance and the slow disintegration of a legacy that initially appeared unwavering. Despite being forgotten by the industry, she helped create a rift among the fans who formerly revered her. Ronda Rousey lives in stillness that is more loud than any knockout. The terrible reality underlying her life before the public was aware of her. Ronda Rousey was already engaged in combat. Born in Riverside, California early in infancy, Ronda battled with a speech impairment brought on by birth wrapped around her umbilical cord. Her neck. Her father committed suicide. A trauma occurred while she was only 8 years old, which would remain in her mind for years. Growing up with just one mother and Maria DeMars, a world champion in judo, Ronda was shoved in her direction. Judo's glory from the beginning became her addiction and her savior. Framework, and by the age of 21, Ronda stood on Beijing's Olympic podium, gripping the first American woman to win a bronze medal. To never accomplish it in judo, but the honor faded rapidly, and no sponsorships were found. No headlines, no plans for the future. She became impoverished while working as a bartender who lives in her vehicle and unable to predict what will happen next. The subsequent action was MMA. The subsequent events were among the greatest ascents in the history of sports. The amateur scene was dominated by her, completing all of her battles in less than a minute each. Victory through the armbar. When she went pro in 2011, the same thing happened. Dana's brutality, accuracy, and fearlessness. According to White, women would never fight. Within the Ronda Rousey altered that with one UFC. She received the UFC's initial phone call. Female champion, and her bouts turned into she starred in a must-watch television show. She brought millions of pay-per-views. New followers of the game. In 2015, Time was selected the ESPN Fighter of the Year. She was selected by the magazine as one of the 100 most powerful individuals on the planet. She wasn't merely triumphing, she was changing, but in retrospect, her rapid ascent was concealing something. Nobody, not even Ronda, was significant ready for the eventuality of such rise. Halted when Ronda Rousey's supremacy as her brand expanded in the UFC. She was the public face of Reebok Metro PCS Monster Energy. She appeared on the first page of Stars in Action from Sports Illustrated films such as Furious 7 and The Expendables 3. She started a family name, not only in pop but also in sports culture, but there is a cost to celebrity. Her calendar was packed with filming locations and she spent less time in the gym on red carpets. She had evolved from a warrior to a company, a brand, a celebrity, and as the sharpness that sprang from her fame made her unbeatable in the octagon once started to wane, and then Holly Holm. UFC 193 in Melbourne in 2015, former boxing champion Holm was viewed as Rousey's next victim. But what transpired was among the most MMA history startling upsets. Holm disassembled Ronda with patience and footwork. Despite viciously hitting her, she retained her. The clinch was avoided at a distance and methodically dissected Ronda. Holm received an in the second round. Terrible head kick that sent Ronda reeling, unconsciously collapsing onto the canvas and humbled. It wasn't merely a defeat, but a collapse. Rousey suffered a broken jaw. Aura was broken, and for more than a year she vanished from the public eye. Completely without any interviews, Instagram, or press tours. Her quiet was a powerful statement, and she came back to face Amanda Nunes in 2016. Wishing to take back her throne, but the fight lasted only 48 seconds. Assaulted her from the first bell. Ronda never managed to land a big hit. She appeared to be psychologically unable to move when she turned as the referee waved it away. Left no interview after the fight, recognizing the loss, yet remaining silent once more, and she never participated in a UFC bout. Hollywood offers dried up once more. Movie parts ceased to appear. Fans who once praised her as a violent goddess started to rewrite, meme, and make fun of her. Her story of transitioning from legend to quitter the internet became ruthless, and she vanished once more, not to recover, but in order to conceal the defeats, simply damaged Ronda's record. They were destroyed. Her name in an uncommon appearance on the Rousey broke down on The Ellen Show in 2016. She acknowledged with tears in her eyes that after she sat in a hospital during the home fight room and thought about ending her own life. "What am I anymore if I'm not this?" she said. Muttered that one word made clear Ronda's actual price for her stardom wasn't she was just engaging in combat with opponents. The strain and weight of expectations of being flawless, the isolation of being a trailblazer without a blueprint. She lacked backup strategy without a mentor or a peer who had been in her position, and when the throng turned, she discovered that she was all alone. Her connection with the press worsened. She declined interviews after the fight. Stayed away from reporters during news conferences. She grew defensive or obviously uneasy. Critics charged her with fans who were previously poor losers admired her and started asking her questions. Toughness comment sections that once yelled her name and then made fun of her. Agony, so she ceased speaking. She deleted her social media accounts. Refused to comment for extended periods of time on her career in the UFC. Refused to accept Amanda Nunes despite being admitted into her acceptance into the UFC Hall of Fame. Was silent, distant, and muted. Those people surrounding her claimed that the fire never truly returned, but not in the cage or the gym. She married Travis Browne, but not in real life. Tried to start fresh after moving to a farm, however the conflict within had ended, not because she was unable to withstand a blow, yet since the need to be flawless had been broken. Her well before the blows were delivered. Ronda Rousey makes her dramatic debut in 2018. First appearance in the WWE. When the music began, the audience exploded, and she marched down the ramp while wearing that identical intensity that initially rocked the UFC. Briefly had the feel of a rebirth. The octagon was exchanged with the squared circle, and initially it was successful. She was athletically strong and quickly adjusted. She was portrayed as a force of nature in a WWE script. The Raw Women's Championship was won by her. Prominent pay-per-views, and ultimately became a part of Maine's history. The first women's main event, WrestleMania 35 moment in the history of WrestleMania. She stood along with Charlotte and Becky Lynch. It was supposed to be her crowning, Flair moment, but even after winning, cracks appeared. Rousey had trouble forming with WWE's rigorous schedule, the weekly journey, and the continuous media. The pre-written advertisements wasn't her world. Fans of wrestling are distinct. They are devoted, outspoken, and strongly opinionated. They showed no concern regarding her UFC honors. They desired enthusiasm, deference, and a sense of Ronda never provided them. By the end of 2019, the applause began to fade, alcohol volume increased, and fans turned on. She calls her entitled and lazy. Said she didn't appreciate the art of professional wrestling. In interviews she retaliated by calling out WWE fans unappreciative and claiming that wrestling was a hoax. Battling that quickly destroyed bridges. Ronda arrived just as fast as she had after losing her. Rousey disappeared once more. Championship during WrestleMania 35, she vanished. No farewell, no goodbye, no final promo tour. Only quiet once more, citing burnout as the reason to spend time with family, the burden of the timetable. But according to insiders, it was more. Compared to that, the criticism and rejection. The strain reflected what she was under. Flee the UFC, and it has since discovered she briefly reappeared in the WWE. However, it didn't remain the same in 2022. There was no spark and fans weren't as intrigued, and she gave a stiff performance. Emotionally estranged at the conclusion of she was off TV once more that year. With there is no official word on whether or when she will return. An additional act that started with the fireworks had concluded in murmurs. Another level where Ronda used to stood taller, now silent. If you observe the females divisions in the WWE or MMA today, the Ronda Rousey fingerprints. She was the reason for everything in the UFC. A women's category was established by Dana White. Amanda Nunes Rosen Namajunas without her as well as Valentina Shevchenko may not have gained the attention they currently possess. She demonstrated that women could headline in the WWE. WrestleMania. They were able to depict meet and surpass the expectations of the fans from a major function, but oddly, Ronda has lost all connection to she doesn't influence the world she helped create. Mentor young combatants. She doesn't show up. She hasn't gone to a Hall of Fame event at UFC events. Ceremony of Fame since her induction. No gym with her name on it exists. Absence of a commentary role on Fight. Breaking down battles, no interviews for a week. No mentoring following Amanda Nunes's retirement. Ronda did not share when she was a young woman. Combatants talk about the people who inspire them. Seldom mention her, and her absence is more than it's emotional and bodily, like though she stopped participating in the sport that made. Despite this, it's the same in WWE. Creating history that she isn't permitted to return to legacy moments. She is hardly brought up by current celebrities. There isn't any talk of a no-fan possibility for a comeback. Nostalgia tour pleading for an additional run, as though both industries have subtly changed and instead of pursuing relevancy, Ronda decided to disappear. Some claim it's resentment. Some claim she had no desire to be well known initially, but the outcome is the same. Lady who broke the mold included women's combat and altered the game. Sports have vanished off the map in the exact home she constructed, and perhaps the saddest thing is that most fans don't even seem to be aware that Ronda Rousey earned millions between WWE sponsorships and UFC bouts. Movie deals and contracts. Her net wealth formerly competed with some of the most well-known in combat sports, but money is short-lived. When there is no plan in place to protect it following her MMA career, Rousey started other side projects, including a YouTube channel recording her life as a homesteader, a lifestyle company known as Broe Acres. She attempted agricultural and hunting content, establishing a new persona distant from battling, far from the spotlight, but it didn't. Sponsorships were dropped by stick viewers. The market was oversaturated and dried up. Fans had no desire to view their milk cows, chop wood, and previous heroes desired the fighter, the reputation, and the fire. They felt as though a ghost was attempting to grin. Despite her brand didn't convert into retirement, Hollywood stopped making calls, and when she returned to WWE, although not with the same fanfare, but this time it was more. She wasn't broke, more out of necessity than enthusiasm. However, she wasn't doing well there either. There were rumors of internal financial strain, silent reports of assets being pulled, investments that were sold. What once appeared to be a comfortable life started to display cracks in contrast to other combat sports. Legendary individuals such as Conor McGregor broke neither Georgia Pierre Rouse nor Lesnar did construct an empire outside of the prison. Didn't construct a gym or start one. Her name was not licensed by the supplement brand. She exited the arena and into emptiness, and her legacy has now once untouchable is starting to make an appearance. Times fissures, not because it wasn't genuine, but since it wasn't strengthened in the modern world. If you're Ronda, you're forgettable and invisible. Rousey was once the most well-known female. Sports have almost. Ronda Rousey is invisible and doesn't reside in the limelight. No longer on her social media. Previously a force for engagement, now only provides fleeting peeks into her peaceful. A few photos of her farm and rural life. A advertisement with a few ambiguous encouraging words occasionally, but now gone are the championship titles, the fights, the live feeds of her training sessions, or even the excitement of the training video in public. She is strangely quiet. Seldom shows up, no major interviews, not even fan exposure for press tours. An individual who previously held the torch for sportswomen. Ronda has eliminated herself from the very exchange that she ignited, and everyone has seen it, but not as one might anticipate when she named trends, which are frequently derived from a viral meme, a critical viewpoint, or someone who brings. Despite her prior shortcomings, she has emerged as the poster kid for how fast everything can leave for each and every admirer who remembers her supremacy 10 more times. Keep in mind the head kick at home during the 48-second defeat to Nunes. The quiet following, both unwillingness to confront. She isn't considered a legend. She is regarded as a mysterious person who never brought closure. Her time in the WWE didn't help that impression. She entered with vigor, but departed bitterly. The alcohol increased. She then yelled at supporters louder. Disappeared once more. It's not only that she walked away, she actually walked away. Without ever really turning around or saying farewell. The MMA community doesn't not sure how to interpret her. She's also crucial to forget, yet too far away to rejoice. Her name isn't often mentioned. During major UFC competitions, and when it's with a sigh of longing combined with discomfort, she lives in an odd, too large to completely eradicate, but too silenced to be important. And as time goes by, the sound of quiet increases, because when the world stops hearing from you, it begins to rewrite your narrative for you. For the majority of Ronda Rousey had a unique life. Judo's goal was to interfere with MMA. It was done in order to rule the WWE. Headline, and she performed in all three arenas. Accomplished those objectives, but when there were no more, the fighting ceased. No more crowns will be broken by opponents. Pursue an alternative. Vanished Ronda Rousey. Her reason didn't lost because to her technique. Didn't fall apart due to power. Disintegrated since the single item that kept her going when the conflict ended. Flourished in fight and required an adversary to contest an objective. Without it, she was unmet, and she is currently in that location. Warrior without a war, she attempted to fill up that gap between farming and marriage when it comes to acting, but nothing ever fits. There was never anything like entering a cage, sensing the stress, knowing everything depended on that thrill. Addicting, and everything would be lost without it. Feels empty, even if her house is lovely. The land is serene, and everyone lives there. Accounts is Ronda wasn't made for silence, though. She was designed to win. That's the champion's irony. They spend their lives getting ready for battle, but they are not taught how to live after it. Ronda, who is 38 now, follows a few recognize that she is not despised and cherished. She's worse than that. Forgotten, and when a combatant halts fighting, when the crowd roars, turns, becomes a far-off echo of the quiet that substitutes. It isn't reassuring, it's deafening for everyone around her. Achievements pertaining to the doors she kicked, keeping track of the records she set for the women. The legacy of inspired Ronda Rousey endures. Oddly incomplete indeed. She was the first woman. Yes, the UFC champion was the main event. Pay-per-views indeed. She modified the way the world viewed women in combat sports. However, ask a group of youthful admirers about her today, and you'll hear ambiguity, perplexity, or even critique. The reason behind this is that legacy isn't merely what you leave behind, is what you do. Ronda didn't construct a gym or launch a foundation, didn't turn into a pundit, coach, or the future's face. She never entered any generations. The corner of Amanda Nunes never congratulated Rose. Never called a fight. Namjoon's mentored a budding celebrity, but she just quit. Additionally, the industry she altered maintained expanding without her. Her quiet has made room for the reworking of reduction for others to modify her, turning the narrative into a warning instead of a celebration. She was fantastic, yet she was unable to manage loss. She was in control, but only prior to the arrival of actual strikers. These are headlines right now, but they're unfair. Not only did Ronda Rousey prevail in battles, but she created a division and made the UFC view women as the main attraction. She established a route that millions of people travel every day, but due to how it concluded, because of the quiet that she merits as a tribute, stays unwritten. No statue or signature seminar exists. Not a legacy docuer. A lady was previously referred to as the most hazardous on the planet, living distant from the spotlight in the hopes that history does not only recall how it concluded. However, in a sport that moves quickly and forgets more quickly than optimism might, Ronda Rousey did more than just fight. She paved the way and altered the battle. She stood at the summit where none existed. Of two empires, but that fire is still burning today. Silently, without arenas, opponents, headlines, the planet has stopped roaring. That used to yell her name now hardly rumors that she was a trailblazer, a phenomenon, and nature's force. but the world never instructed her to slow down just in order to rise, and in her peaceful haven, we observe a truth that so many myths encounter: it's the knockout that kills you. In the event that no one rings you back after giving it her all, at the age of 38, she walks by themselves that admirers have forgotten, vanished from the limelight and abandoned to deal with what remains. This is the result of the warrior lives longer than she does.